right, let's talk about security champions. You guys heard about this before? Security champions?
Never.
What is an AppSec conference without talking about security champions, right? We got some heads doing the wrong thing there. So let me just start by sharing a little bit about myself. Who's this guy? Why am I up here talking? I was a software engineer for over a decade. Okay, so I worked for these various companies. Worked in the video game industry for a little while, which was quite interesting. Did e-commerce, worked in the DoD for a little bit, so I've been around. And then I got into cybersecurity, leadership specifically. So I was literally in cyber for 3 months, and they were like, why don't you just lead the entire AppSec team at Staples, was my huge opportunity. So it was quite incredible. I basically went from like heads down engineer to someone who has to go out and talk to people, right? And influence people, which is a totally different type of role. All right, and now I do a lot of things. So I'm an advocate essentially for Security Journey. I started my own company, Catalyst. We actually focus on security champion programs. I'm a consultant for IANS. And then I started a community, the League of Cyber Defense Champions, which is essentially a cross-industry, cross-company security champion program that we're just getting off the ground. So things are getting pretty exciting there. I actually authored a guide, the Security Champion Program Success Guide, that's got a lot of how-to for how to build security champion programs. I noticed there were a lot of articles out there about why you should build them, not enough about how to actually go about doing that. So that's why I published that guide. And then I also do vCISO and vAppSec work. Okay, so I'm around, I do a lot of things, is the point. All right, I like to start with takeaways, right? To kind of get you warmed up a little bit. I also really enjoy interactive sessions, so feel free to jump in with questions or whatever it is throughout the presentation. But let's go ahead, let's test, and you're not expected to know any of this yet, okay? This is more of a preview of what is coming. But go ahead, try to fill in the blanks as best you can, okay? So what do you guys think? And I'll wait, I'm patient, okay? I will wait for your responses for these. So the biggest factor in an org's risk is human. Nailed it. Oh, this is quite the audience. Okay, your AppSec program is what kind of program? Risky, okay. Maybe. This is going to be a little bit different, and it might be different than what you've heard in other talks. It's an expensive program. Yes, that's probably true. All right, I'm going to leave that one for a little bit. Culture change, which is a little bit of a clue for that one, frankly, requires what? Advocacy, love it. Or maybe champions would be a good way to say that, or a different way to say that. Time, yep, I like that.
Executive buy-in.
Yeah, all of these things. And we're actually going to cover a lot of that today. So whether you think they can, this is a little bit of a variation on another phrase that you might have heard, whether you think they can or you think they can't, you're
responsible.
Right. Someone nailed it. Who was that? Over there? Raise your hand. Right on. Spot on. All right, there you go. All filled in. So people's behavior, you guys nailed that. Your AppSec program is a change program. Okay, we're going to talk about this in detail today. Culture change requires champions or advocates, right? Whether you think they can or you think they can't, you're right. So spot on. All right, let's get started. I like to begin with the end in mind, right? Let's take a minute and just dream for a minute, okay? So the rosy future, ideally, what would this look like, okay? Can you imagine this? And let's kind of go into this world, because I like to center on why are we even trying to do what we're trying to do in AppSec, right? Engineering teams patch regularly. They actually keep their dependencies up to date. Wouldn't that be amazing? Who's with me? It's a wonderful world, exactly. Yeah, we wouldn't have our jobs. Are you sure about that? We could talk about that a little bit more. I think we're still necessary in this rosy world, but I think it's good to kind of center on what we're trying to aim for, okay? No weaknesses exist, or little or few weaknesses exist, right, in our software. And then everyone actually considers security during their daily work. Wouldn't this be amazing? Anyone? Or do you want this to not happen because of job security? Right? Have we given up? Or is this the dream? Okay, it's the dream. Very good. All right, right on. So will we ever get there? No. Sorry. Now, what I just painted was essentially a perfect scenario, and we're not ever gonna get there, okay? And there's a lot of reasons for that. We're humans, people make mistakes, there will always be mistakes, right? There will always be attackers who are coming up and dreaming up with new and creative ways to attack our organizations, okay? Which means we're constantly going to have to be combating them, right? We're constantly going to have to change the way that we think about things in order to combat the attackers. But, this is very important, the higher we aim, right, the closer we'll get, right? So like when you're in school, do you aim for a C? And then if you kind of don't quite get there, then you'll get a D. Probably not a good strategy, right? You aim for the A. You aim for 100%, I'm gonna do as best I can. And then maybe if I fall a little short, I'm still in the range that I wanna be in, okay? All right, but won't tech and AI save us all? How many of you have gotten tired of maybe some of the vendor pitches that are out there in terms of AI is going to solve everything? Yes? Just one hand? Really? Okay. Come on, people.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought XML saved us all.
XML did save us all. Have you not?
Why do we need AI?
Exactly. Yeah, so the short answer is no. And here's an image that I put together in order to help explain the way that I'm thinking about all of this, okay? And the whole idea is, AI is essentially going to help cover some of the common things, right? It's all known attacks that AI is going to defend against, right? Now it's getting quicker and it's getting more sophisticated, and that's fantastic. But the other side of that is attackers are also using these tools, okay? So it's essentially, if you think about it, it's kind of like the AIs are attacking each other, right? You've got AIs attacking, you've got AIs defending, and they're all based on these common attacks, right? Now, certainly you have to have a lot of those controls in place, right? If you are getting consistently bombarded by AI enhanced attacks, ideally you need to have those AI enhanced defenses as well. So that's sort of table stakes, okay? But is that the end all be all? Are we done? No, and the reason is because we have creative human attackers who are constantly finding ways to push the boundaries, right? Come up with something new and different that's beyond what the AI can cover for, okay?
They're also unconstrained.
They're also unconstrained, exactly. They can think outside the box, right? They're thinking creative human beings, okay? So the point is, we need thinking creative human beings as defenders as well, okay? I'm gonna make a little bit more of a case, but does that make sense so far? Any naysayers about any of that? Is AI going to solve everything here? Despite what everyone in the booths will tell you out there? Okay. I love the way this guy has stated this. If you haven't heard this before, this is just beautiful. Especially the part where you don't understand technology. So I'm gonna read this. If you think technology can solve all your problems, you don't understand the problems, and you don't even understand the technology. Okay, still true today, even in the age of AI. Okay, all right. So just got updated with the DBIR, the latest Verizon data breaches investigation report. How many of you have read this, by the way? Fantastic. 60%. Okay, there's a human element involved in 60% of the breaches today. Okay, still, even with AI. AI's been around a while. We haven't solved this yet. Okay, whoops. So it's still an issue, okay? So that brings us to what we've already kind of talked about, and there's a little bit of a hint here and a clue for maybe a quiz at the end that might happen. The biggest factor in NOR's risk is people's behavior, okay? All right, so what does that mean? It means we need to help motivate people. We need to create an army of defenders for our companies that are gonna stop these common attacks, or not just common attacks, but these creative attacks that the attackers are gonna come up with, okay? We're not getting off the hook, even with AI. So in AppSec, if we're gonna be changing people's behavior, we're in the business of change, okay? And when I talk about this kind of opens people's eyes a little bit. It kind of blows their mind. But everything when it comes to change management comes into play based, with what we do in AppSec, okay? So it's about change. It's about change management. It's about influencing and pushing change across your organization. Again, if everything were fine as is, we wouldn't need to be here, right? So I'm going to go into that a little bit more, but does this make sense so far? Any questions about this? Have you ever thought of it as a change program, what you're trying to accomplish? Okay, it's sweet. Nodding heads, all right. Same guy that shook his head before is now nodding. We're making progress. He's still, okay. We'll get there. All right, so your AppSec program is a culture change program, okay, is the point. And here's how change happens, okay? So this is called the diffusion of innovation curve, and or the technology adoption life cycle, sort of depending on where you come from, product, et cetera. But here's the idea, is that this essentially represents the population at your company, okay? These are all the people at your company. And when it comes to the change that you're trying to make, in this case, better security practices, what you're gonna have here is a handful of folks on the left side that get it right away, okay? They're grateful for the message that you're out there trying to push, right? You go meet people, you connect with folks, and you start talking about security best practices, and you're gonna have people that go, exactly, I've been here 20 years, I've been trying to tell people all about this, I totally get it, right? Those are the innovators, those are the early adopters of the change, okay? Then you have the other side, the laggards. You will have people that are like, what are you talking about? We've always done it this way. I tried doing this 10 years ago, it didn't work, right? They're just not gonna buy into what you're trying to push, okay? And then you sort of have everyone else in the middle. They're not really sure what to think, they're open to it, etc. Okay, so then you have the chasm, and there's a pretty famous book called Crossing the Chasm. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. We've got some fans here at the front. It's an amazing book, by the way. It's a little bit dated, but a lot of the concepts still fall into play. But the whole idea is that you need these early adopters if you're going to cross the chasm and reach the majority of people, okay? These are your what? These are the people that are advocating for the change that you're trying to make. So they're the champions. Exactly. All right, I love this video. Has anyone seen this video?
Oh my God.
It's so good. Okay, so essentially it's this guy dancing. It's like a festival of some kind, right? And it's a pretty famous talk by this guy. It's on YouTube. And he's basically dancing alone during this festival, okay? And everyone's like, okay, what's with this guy? And then all of a sudden what happens, and this is what's fascinating about it, is you can actually watch a movement happen over the course of just a couple of minutes. Because what happens is he gets joined by another individual. And now there's two of them, and they're both dancing, right? And then what happens is you have multiple more people jumping on board, and then eventually you have basically everyone. Like now you're the oddball if you're not out there dancing like everyone else, right? So how did this go down? How did this happen? I think there's a few important points to pull out of this. First of all, it was the follower who turned that, we're gonna call him the lone nut, okay? Turned the lone nut into a leader, which means without the follower, he doesn't actually emerge as a leader. He was just a crazy person dancing, okay? Secondly, if you really care about something, I think this is important, especially in the age, the American approach, right? Of everyone's an entrepreneur, everyone should lead their own individual efforts. I think there's an important point here. And it's, if you really believe in something, become that follower, okay? Because you're going to help create that movement, right? You're gonna help, now that there's two of you, right, or more, you're actually you're going to see a lot of other people join because you joined something that you believed in, okay? Yeah, question.
Are you really the first follower, or are you the next leader at that early of the stage?
I mean, I think those are terms. You know, I think you can say you're a leader as well. You could even call the follower, the first follower, a leader in itself, right? Because he got up, he kind of got out of his comfort zone and he joined the movement. So there's kind of different forms of leadership is the way that I like to think about it. And then, yeah, early adopters, first followers, as we already talked about, are your security champions. Does this make sense so far? Okay, so change requires early adopters, first followers, champions, okay? All right, this is not a new concept. There is a very famous writer, author person who talks about change all the time, John Cotter. This is his 8-step model. So this is not something that's brand new to cybersecurity or specific to cybersecurity. Okay, this is how you do change management in general. And notice right there, one of his steps, okay? It says enlist a volunteer army, okay? Again, champions, advocates, right? All right, so how do I do this? Where do I start? And I already mentioned, I wrote a guide about this. OWASP actually has a guide as well that's very good. They're working on a lot of artifacts for that. Security Journey has a couple of handbooks. I actually have a bunch of them with me, so if you're curious, I'm happy to pass them out to you, but there's basically a handbook for building a security champion program, as well as a champion, what do I do? What's the best way for me to be effective as a champion? So I'm happy to share that with you as well. All right, so my situation is unique though. Like, you don't know me, you don't know my company. This would never work for me, okay? Now let's talk about the skeptical side of the whole thing, right? I think in general, and this is one of the issues, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit later as well, you have to tailor your program for your culture, okay? So you might read an article, hey, AWS has an amazing Guardians program. This could work for me. I'm just gonna kind of follow exactly what they did and just plop it into my environment, okay? Probably won't work, okay? And I've actually seen this a lot. I do a lot of consulting when it comes to champion programs. They're all different, okay? There's certainly some themes, which we'll talk about, that are common across all of them. But for the most part, people are taking the time to tailor the ones that are successful for their companies, and that's why they're successful, okay? But how do I get leadership support for this? This is one of the biggest questions I always run into. I'm trying to put a lot of meat into this presentation. How do I actually do this, okay? Now, it's probably no surprise. You need to actually come up with metrics. You have to measure success and show that success to leadership if they're gonna buy in on it. They're not just gonna take your word, right? So how the heck do you even do this? And I have essentially 7 points here. I've actually used all of these methods to make a solid case when it comes to metrics. So first one, clearly define your goals, right? Make them SMART, right? Who's heard of that at this point? SMART has totally caught on, right? That's very, very true, right? Specific, measurable, can you actually name them all? Anyone? Let's do it together. Let's do it together. Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-bound. Good job, all right. Amazing. All right, number 2, define actual behaviors that you want your champions to do. Okay, this isn't just, we're gonna have a fun club, a little community of people that are together in a Slack channel and they're just gonna kind of hang out and talk about security, right? Is that even realistic? Probably not. So defining clear responsibilities, or what I like to call desired actions or ideal actions, is an important step in designing a champion program, right? Because now you know what you wanna reinforce. You know what you want them to be doing, okay? Number 3, choose only a few metrics, people. Like, people who are throwing up, 10 metrics to leaders, it's basically just an eye glaze moment, right? For the leaders, they're like, I don't even know what you're showing me. So really pick out the ones that accurately show the health of your program, right? Number 4, track over time. So show trends, don't just show a snapshot, right? We have 130 champions. Okay, what did that look like last year? What did that look like last month, right? It's important to show progress, right? Number 5, setting targets. Okay, so this basically means, hey, we're at 130 champions. We wanna be here tomorrow. Or when it comes to measuring risk, or and we'll get practical in a minute, where do you wanna be? And where do you wanna be specifically in a time range? Leaders are gonna wanna see that as well, right? So show the trend, but have like a nice red line that says, hey, we're aiming for this, right, for next year, okay? Number 6, speak their language. You probably heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot at this conference in general. Speak in terms of money. Dwayne covered this pretty well a little bit earlier. And then number 7, try to split up and report by individuals or teams or departments as well. Show how they compare to each other. I've been in a room with C-levels where I have showed engineering VPs and their organizations compared to each other. There's not a lot that's more motivating than that. I got a lot of calls from VPs at that point saying, hey, how do I get better at this, right? I want to stand out when it comes to all this. It's always better to highlight people who are doing well, by the way, not shame people. I have a whole talk track on that I won't get into. So how are we doing on time, by the way? Pretty good. All right, correlation versus causation. Okay, so this is the beginning of some of the trouble for how to actually measure success with your security champion program. And the example I love to use is essentially how would you show a developer was about to code a vulnerability, but then they remembered their training, so they didn't do it, right? How could you ever show that? Okay, it's one of the reasons that people find it hard to build a case for training in general. You can't, okay? But what you can do is you can show a difference, a correlation. You can say for group A or B, kind of like A/B testing, right? Compared to this department, compared to a different department, the department with champions or with training has fewer vulnerabilities, right? They're introducing less issues, they fix issues quicker, whatever that is. So trying to compare groups. Also trying to compare before and after, right? Before the champion program, we ran into these types of issues. Now, things are much better, okay? And then using surveys, right? Qualitative insights are also really useful, okay? A note about surveys, because I think some of us get a little bit lost in terms of the right way to build surveys. I think what I always love to say, I don't know if you can read this, but I'll just say it. There's often a disconnect between what people will tell you they want, what they think they want, what they actually want, and then just how they behave, which could be completely different than all those other things that I just said, right? So, an example. I love your events. You guys put on really amazing events, but they never show up to any of the events, right? Okay, well, there's an indicator there for you. All right, so the point is combining survey results with your own observations. Don't just rely on surveys, okay? Any questions so far? Am I going? How's the pace here? Too quick? All good? You're with me? All right, sweet. What do I measure? All right, so this is a lot of the meat, and I'm gonna make this point again, but I think it's really important. Your security champion program essentially is your AppSec program, okay? Now, the reason I like to make this point is I mentioned the term fun club before. I think a lot of folks will separate their AppSec program from their champion program, right? We've got scanning, we've got all these cool AppSec things going on over here, and then we have a champion program. That's kind of this other thing that we do, right, to build support and culture. What I'm gonna encourage everyone to do here is combine those completely, meaning that your champions are actually helping you build your AppSec program as a whole, okay? All right, so I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more, but I'm gonna remind you that your AppSec program is a culture change program, and we know how change happens now through champions, right? So they're completely coupled, and they should be approached that way. All right, so to measure, this is just kind of re-emphasizing the point, to measure the ultimate success of your champion program, you should be measuring the success of your AppSec program, okay? And you may claim success of your champion and AppSec program if you are doing what? This is kind of the ultimate goal that we talked about before, right? You're reacting to issues. Are we paying attention? Or you're consistently preventing issues, right? This is the point, okay? It's much cheaper. I can talk a lot about the advantages of a prevention program or prevention focus versus reactive. But I think everyone gets it. All right, so this is kind of going into the AppSec strategy that I talk about a lot. These are the steps to success when it comes to AppSec, okay? Now, essentially what I'm advocating for here is building a foundation that's built upon building relationships, okay? So as a first step, you're not gonna get anything done with your AppSec program unless you build relationships, okay? And a big part of that is because you as a security team, you're not always doing the actual fixing, right? You're not always taking the actual actions that are leading to less risk across your organization, okay? So you have to have relationships across your organization to get anything done. So that's where I always start, okay? Get out there, like if you're brand new, you're the first AppSec engineer, you're not gonna be working in a silo trying to fix everything yourself. You have to get out there and start to talk to people, okay? And then you start to find your advocates like we were talking about before, okay? Number two, focus on finding risks, okay? Get a scan tool in place, do a pen test, right? Do something that's actually going to indicate that there's an issue in your environment, or you're going to really have trouble making a case for doing anything else that you're going to do, okay? I know a lot of folks that come in, they're like, hey, I really believe in threat modeling. Let's start with preventative controls right out of the gate. Okay, but you haven't made a case for that. Okay, so all that's going to do is cause a lot of leaders to start to question that over time. Why are we doing this new threat modeling thing? We didn't even have an issue in our environment to begin with. So you have to show that you have issues, and then you can sort of back off and shift left over time, right? Number 3, so getting really good. Yeah, go ahead. Do you have a question? That's fine.
Wait a minute.
Okay, I might be getting there, huh?
Okay.
Okay. Number 3, fixing risks. Okay, so now that you've identified risks across your organization, now it's time to get really good at fixing them. Okay, so setting up the processes, setting up the measurements and so forth that show, hey, I'm actually making progress, I'm actually fixing things, okay? And then finally, number 4, once you get really good at fixing things and identifying things, it's time to do root cause analysis and try to put preventative controls in place, okay? In that order, okay? That's really important, okay? Did I address your question or?
No.
Go ahead.
I believe there's a 5th step.
Okay.
Market the prevention. If you don't make that visible, if you don't tell your story, it didn't happen because you can't see prevention.
Yeah, and I would make the case that you should be showing success for all of these all along the way. Exactly. And I'm actually going to go into that right now. Okay, so I did predict what you were going to ask. So this is a lot of the meat. Okay, these are actual measurements that I've used to convince leadership that I'm doing the right thing when it comes to those 4 steps that I was just sharing. Okay, so let's go through these in detail. How do you measure that you've connected with people in a way that is useful, fruitful? Okay, how do you actually measure this? I don't know. I have good relations. People like me, or people don't like me. Is there like a reputation measure? I guess you could do like a net promoter score or something like that, right? But what I've found to be most effective is you can actually measure how often do teams reach out to you. Okay, that shows a lot of things. Okay, the 2 biggest things that it shows is 1, they know you, they know who to reach out to, which I don't know about all of you, but it takes a lot to even get to that point, And number 2, they trust you, okay? They actually want to reach out to you because they know that you are going to provide value in what they're doing, okay? They're building a new thing. I've got this new system that I've been asked to build by product. I'd like security's feedback on this. I'm going to reach out to them and bring them into the conversation, okay? That's huge. And you can measure this. Okay, I've actually set up a way to measure it in Jira or another system where you have people who have created tickets who you can then measure, hey, they tagged you, right? They commented, they brought you into the conversation. Okay, there's also a way to measure it on Slack. There's a lot of ways to do this. All right, number 2, find risk. I always talk about coverage. Okay, to what extent are you looking for risk across the systems that you own, right? The actual ways that you detect risk can certainly vary system to system, and that's fine. I think the point is, do you have the appropriate controls in place that are actually going to find those risks across your org? Because the other thing too is, hey, we don't have any risk across our company. Well, if you're not actually looking for it, then you really can't claim success there, right? Number 3, fix. So I like the classic MTTR. Right? Are people actually fixing things in a timely manner? Or maybe not at all, which means that time just grows and grows, which is an issue as well. And then how do you measure prevention? Has anyone come up with a good metric for this at this point? Anyone willing to share anything that they've done? You're kind of smiling a little bit. Okay, so the way that I've been successful, moderately successful with this so far, is by showing that time has been saved by reducing rework, okay? So looking at, hey, there was a production issue, production incident, how long did it actually take us to talk about it, right? To organize the fix. It's time consuming, right? And especially if it's an architectural related issue, it's now going to take a lot of time to go back and revamp the system, right, that was causing the actual issue. You can measure all that, okay? You can measure it incident to incident. You can also estimate it, okay? So now if you can compare that to if we had only just taken a few minutes and talked about this as part of a threat modeling exercise, we would have prevented that entire thing, right? And you can actually do that comparison, okay? Then translate it into dollars, because we were talking about what's going to make a good case for business. If you can say, hey, we are actually actively preventing X number of dollars of our developers' time, essentially, then that makes a compelling case as well. Does that make sense? Okay, this is a secret sauce, okay?
Absolutely.
Any questions about this? Go ahead.
So, say you're on step 3 now. You're security hire number 1. Before then, security was like a joke.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you're trying to go for mean time to remediate for all of that. You go from that snapshot of time, program established, do a mean time to remediate of new vulnerabilities then, or can you look at past as well? Because executives are going to look at those and go say, hey, we have 4,000 highs. They've been around for a few years. Why do we care now?
Yeah, I've run into this many times because you hook up some new tool, you've got a bunch of vulnerabilities you didn't know existed before. How do you handle that exactly? I've always recommended splitting it into two categories, right? You've got the backlog of issues. That's going to take time to get down, right? And any auditor will understand this as well, right? So you can make a pretty compelling case. Hey, we're making progress, right? Setting those targets, like I was sharing before, becomes really important at that point too. And then when you talk about SLAs for new issues, that's a way to kind of separate them, right? The new things that are coming in, at least, we're fixing those by the SLA. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's keep going. I do have an entire article that actually breaks everything I just spoke about down in detail. If you want to QR code that guy, I'm a security guy. You can trust this QR code. It's totally going to be fine.
Wait a minute.
Or the fact that I just said that, now everyone's
You
suspicious.
want to wear my black hat?
Yeah, exactly. Totally trustworthy. Anyway, it's quite a long article, but I basically break down every case that I just made in detail. Okay, so hopefully that's useful for you. Feel free to ping me if you have any questions about any of that, by the way. And that goes for anything at any time. All right, so I think the other point that I want to make here in terms of measurement, I certainly shared a lot of metrics when it comes to AppSec, right? These are risk reducing and preventing metrics. But where do you get started? A lot of times you don't have the infrastructure set up to measure all those things, okay? Start simple. Just start by, I've got a few people that show up to my champion meetings every month, and look, attendance is going up, or participation is increasing, right? Stuff like that I think is really good to just get started with, and you can show leadership, hey, people actually do care about this stuff. One other point about all this is you don't have to have this giant formalized program right out of the gate, okay? As you go around and you start connecting with people and finding allies, just invite them to some sort of a monthly, get together, right? Keep it simple to start, right? But then over time, as you get momentum and people get interested in it, this is where formalizing it really comes into play, okay? All right, how do I motivate them? This is one of the other biggest issues with security champion programs that I see. So I'm gonna go through a few things here. This kind of goes into the behavioral science side of things that I've become obsessed with, frankly. Again, going from an engineer to someone who has to influence people, I've really leaned into a lot of these concepts. So you're not gonna see any behavior, period, unless you have these three things, okay? They have to be motivated to do it, they have to have the ability to do it, and they have to be prompted or reminded to do it, okay? None of you do anything unless those three things are in place, including show up to this room for this, okay? You could probably see how maybe you were prompted, you have the ability because you're here, and so forth. I'm gonna skip this in the interest of time, but I just provided a few examples of how this plays into, you want people to actually show up to a talk, they're gonna need to be motivated in these ways and so forth. I actually have a whole other talk when I talk about motivating people. It's quite fascinating, so I'm happy to share that with any of you as well. What's in it for the champions? Okay, we're gonna talk about rewards, which means just pizza, and right, that's it. Gift cards. Is that it? That's the only, and money? Yeah, this is the only thing that motivates people? Is that true?
So,
Go ahead.
going home knowing that you have done a good job is by research is the biggest motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so.
How about if other people recognize that you've done a good job?
That's I believe the third biggest, and I
That's
can't
like,
remember what the
yeah.
second
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Do I have that right?
That's close. Yeah. And I was talking about motivation before. One of the motivators that I always talk about is achievement. Just that feeling that, hey, I accomplished something. I had a challenge in front of me. I overcame the challenge. That's extremely motivating. Go ahead. Yeah. Not that one. Okay. That one. Yeah, you got it. All right. No, there are other rewards, I think is the point, okay? And this acronym actually comes from the gamification world, SAPS, okay? Status, access, power, and stuff. And this is a good way to just brainstorm additional types of rewards that you can use, okay? Status, labeling someone a guru, right? Labeling someone or having some sort of leveling system. The example I love to use here is when people especially when people go, I don't know about gamification. You know, we don't play games at our company. I'm like, well, do you have promotions? Do people get promoted? They do. Okay, interesting. Because that's status, okay? You've actually leveled them up and you've given them a title based on what you know, the criteria that you've decided. And I would even argue that when you do get promoted, is it the money that you care about? Or is it that increase in responsibility and the recognition of all the contributions that you've made, right? Probably the latter. That's status, okay? So if you can do something in your program that's going to recognize the people who are standing out, it's gonna mean a lot to them. Access and power, okay, so only providing access to the people who have earned it to things, special things. You know, this could be lunch or dinner with the CISO, something like that. My favorite example of this is actually not sharing incident information. People are really curious about what's going on at your company in terms of security incidents. You can't just share that with anyone, right? Like, hey, join this newsletter. We'll tell you all about the latest incident at our company. That's not going to happen. But if you can make that a reward for people who have earned it, that is really compelling for folks, right? Oh, I want the inside track. I want to be in the circle of trust, right? And learn more about this stuff. And then power, this is the ability to help make decisions, right? Which could include refining your champion program. So I've actually had like steering committees for security champion programs and having people who have earned their way in, right, through merit, being part of that. Okay, so they get to shape the future of the program. So there's a lot of creative ideas that we can do there. What else is in it for the champions? Risk reduction, certainly for their work and home. Resume builder, security champions is a thing that is recognized, and so forth. Let me skip past that in skills. Okay, skills, also very important, right? So we always talk about training when it comes to security champion programs, and it's because people want to skill up and level up, okay? All right, my program went wrong. What happened? Okay, some of these programs fail, probably no surprise. Again, I mentioned before, I work with clients across a variety of industries when it comes to building champion programs. What I have done, and I actually partnered with other folks on my team to come up with this list. These are the 10 reasons that they fail, okay? And it could be one, maybe just one of these that you kind of got wrong, and that's why your program failed. There's a few really good, juicy ones in here, but let's start with no leadership buy-in, which I think everyone probably gets that one. No vision, right? We talked about having SMART goals. Did you have a question?
I would modify that number one a little bit.
Yeah.
I ran into this, having the right alignment between HR as well. They may not be leadership, but HR really does not like titles or anything floating in, especially large.
In some companies, yeah.
Large companies, they really want that stuff locked down.
It's very true. Yeah, and actually I recommend a parallel approach when it comes to this because you can still do some things that HR is not going to have a big issue with. But if you're kind of making it more official, like an official track or an addition to their job description or whatever that is, you have to involve HR.
Blindsided if you're one-on-one later or any type of promotion piece or performance evaluation, this comes with that at HR.
Right. 100%.
That's why I have leadership and wherever your HR.
Yeah, I like that. I include them in leadership. Like when I think about this, I think about all of the senior leaders. You know, the chief people officer or whoever it is. Get them in the loop as well as far as what you're doing.
I would say that the people that are the best friends of security is HR and legal.
And finance.
And finance.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I've had a lot of luck being friends with the finance person. It goes a long way. All right, promoting negative social proof. So I want to spend a minute on this because this is not something that people think about right away, okay? If you ever ask your champions, how come none of you are showing up to my meetings? Oops, major mistake. Okay, that would be like, how come no one's responding to any of my questions? Have you ever heard a speaker do this? Boy, it's a quiet room. No one wants to talk. Does that make you more motivated to talk or less motivated? Very much less, okay? So this is, and it's because of social proof. You've now pointed out that most people aren't talking and most people aren't interested in what you're having to say. So now even less people are going to be interested in what you're having to say, right? So be really careful with that. I've seen a lot of mistakes when it comes to that, okay? Passing off the security team's responsibilities. Do you guys think champions are just free labor that you could just delegate to? You know, we're having trouble scaling our security program. Let's just get security champions. We'll throw it all on them. Does that really work? That doesn't work, okay? Champions contribute uniquely to your program. They're not a replacement for your security team, okay? I've seen that mistake be made over and over. Go ahead.
How do you deal with the reverse wherein when you introduce this program, people will be just like, oh, we have a security team. Why are you including me to this program? We already have a security team doing this.
Yeah, they might be the laggards, right? So I think there's going to be some people who are grateful to get on board. They're like, oh, I like what you're doing. I want to be part of it for whatever reason. You're going to have other people, like I was sharing before, who are like, I don't want any part of this. I always recommend don't spend a lot of time with them, right? Like spend time with the people who do want to get involved. Does that make sense? Okay. There's a lot of concerns about that too. I can't really go into all of it right now. Do you have a question?
I was just thinking from that perspective too, job opportunities. If there's somebody on a team that wants to get into cybersecurity but not in cybersecurity, this is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, and this is one of the most rewarding things I've seen. Like I've had people be part of my champion programs who have gotten into our industry and now they're like superstars. And it makes me so proud to see that, right? One thing with that though, when you're recruiting champions, don't talk to the managers about that, right? Like, I would love to have someone on your team be a champion because I would love them to join my team, right? This is not a good idea. So it's cool when it happens organically and kind of subtly, but it shouldn't be an outward-facing goal. Frankly, you need champions to stay in their teams, right? If you're going to have this model work.
That's when they will provide value.
Yes, exactly. All right, a few more that I want to go over. How are we doing on time here? Okay, about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go through these. I have a few more slides, and then I would love to take some questions as well. Not evolving over time. Okay, this is not a set it and forget it type thing. You have to be constantly evolving it and changing it. People are that fickle, okay? They want the new, they want something that's different, okay? Poor content. Okay, you finally got them to show up to one of your meetings. If it sucks, they're not coming back. Okay, so take the time and make sure that the content that you're providing is good, high quality content, okay? Number 8, not allocating resources, okay? I don't know, we've got a champion program. It's like 10% of one of my engineers' time to set up a meeting every month. That's all the time we spend on it. That's also a recipe for failure, okay? The most successful programs, especially at larger companies with larger programs, they have a team, right? They've got 2 or 3 people that actually focus on making their champion program work. It kind of varies, you know, in terms of how many people you need, of course, but that's really important, right? If it's important to you, put the resources and finance behind it, okay? No metrics, we already talked about that a lot. Number 10, not having fun, okay? And this is actually a big point that I want to make here. If you don't believe that your champion program is going to work and you're not having fun and you're not getting creative and bringing new ideas and making it interesting, it's probably not going to work. Okay, if you're reluctantly doing it, people see right through that, of course, right? So this is the point. You have to believe, and your leaders have to believe in this program as well. If they're like, I don't know, this is Dustin's little side project, we have no idea what the heck he's doing, that's not going to go very well for you, okay? So that's where whether you think they can or you think they can't, you're right. And this is all about promoting the fact that more people, we want to invite more people into cybersecurity as a whole, right? And we want to tell them that they can do that and encourage them to get involved, okay? This is really important. So I already made that point, so I'm just going to go past that. Here we are. Takeaways. Did you guys learn anything today? Can you fill in these blanks? Let's go. Let's see what you got. Biggest factor in NOR's risk is, okay, done. Your AppSec program is a, yes. Culture change requires,
advocacy champions.
good, first followers, right? Early adopters. And whether you think they can, very good, and time.
It takes 30 days to form a new behavior.
That's true. And it also takes years to build a successful culture change program. Okay, so let's just set expectations there. Yep, and whether you think they can or you think they can't, you're right, still right. There you go. So bonus takeaways. Be the lone nut. Also be the follower too. If you really believe in something, get on board, whatever that is, okay? Have fun, and yeah, you won't attract anyone otherwise. So I've already made that point. And that's it. So feel free to connect with me. You can also trust this QR code. I'm friendly. I'm happy to talk to anyone about any of this stuff. Like I said, I have actually rolled out many programs. I actually want to show a slide really fast. I probably should have put this in. These are all the folks that have publicly announced successful security champion programs through articles and so forth. I took a lot of time to research this and actually validate each one of these. That's impressive. Okay, that means a lot of people have been successful with this. So yeah, any questions with any remaining time? Do we have a minute or two? 4 minutes? Sweet. All right. Questions? Thoughts?
I do.
You know what? Do you mind if I take his first?
No.
Okay. Go ahead. It's okay. He's already asked a lot of them though. I'm trying to spread out the love here.
Have you had programs atrophy because of attrition?
You mean the champions who were involved and excited about it, they ended up leaving? Yeah, I think this comes down to constantly recruiting people, right? This is, you know, you don't just one and done, hey, I found a few people that those are my champions for life. You're constantly recruiting, right? You find new people join the company, you talk to them about it, have it part of your onboarding process, you know, in terms of like telling people that this program exists. So the idea is you constantly get a funnel of new people, and then and hopefully that helps. So, go ahead.
So your list here, the list of companies here is a lot of early adopters. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of, except for McDonald's maybe, not a lot of like potential laggards. So it seems like we're really early in the adoption curve you were showing us earlier. How do we cross the chasm?
You mean in terms of people adopting security champion programs?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. How do we cross the chasm with that? Well, I mean, I think it has to do with finding those early adopters, right? And really leaning into their success. Okay, so I've run into this a lot where people may have successful security champion programs, but they're not telling anybody. And I would encourage everyone here who believes in security champion programs to be that follower and start to promote this as an idea so that it ends up catching on. Okay, so essentially we need all of you to be champions of security champion programs so that we can cross that chasm and finally reach a point where the majority of people get this. Now, I've done a lot of speaking over the last few years about this entire topic. I have definitely seen a trend upward in terms of people adopting these types of programs. I think they're now a default in the checklist of AppSec things, okay? I need scanning, I need threat modeling, I need champions, which is huge. And four or 5 years ago, that was not the case. I think people were still skeptical of them. So we're making progress. All right, other questions? You're going to cut me off? Is it? He's raising his mic? Oh, all right. Well, thanks,
Brian, I'm gonna
everyone.
give you-
Appreciate it.